Hey there, my name is Anthony Romano, and in this video I'm going to tell you about the top 6 keto mistakes you want to avoid. So if you are doing any of these mistakes, basically they're probably going to ruin your experience with the keto diet, let alone your results on the keto diet. So, I've been doing the ketogenic diet for 7 years now. I've been bodybuilding throughout that time. I'm 22 years old now, and I've been doing this since I was 16. I've done it every correct way and every incorrect way you could possibly do it. But at the end of the day, these are my top 6 mistakes to avoid on a keto diet. So, the first one is going to be glycemic load. So, what this basically means is how dense a food is in sugar. So of the carbs that you're consuming, the most popular mistake I see people make, by far, is that people will still incorporate some amount of carbs in their diet because they think that it fits under the 50-gram requirement, but in reality it has a much higher glycemic load, so a much higher effect on your blood sugar. So overall, if you're one of the type of people who does this, and this is the scenario right here, where somebody is eating keto food all day long, but then in the evening, maybe it's late at night, they need a little snack, they have, an apple, or they'll have a small bowl of oats or yogurt with some oats or some granola or something like that. And that is the most common thing I've heard with so many people. And it is, even though it is under 50 grams, it might even only be 30 grams of carbs total for the day. The density of these foods in sugar is so high that they're going to affect your ketosis and actually prevent you from getting into full-blown ketosis. It's basically going to keep you in a little no man's land where your body's not quite passing into ketosis because you keep popping it out by having these carb-dense and sugar-dense meals at the end of the day or the beginning of the day or at some point in the day. So cut those out. At the end of the day, just because there's a carb limit of 50 grams, the most important thing is the quality of those carbs. So that is what this tip all comes down to. The quality of your carbs, which is a much simpler way of saying glycemic load of the carbs. So keep your carbs from the green vegetables, and over time, then you can start caring about the net carbs more so. And then you can incorporate more like certain protein bars that are effective for a keto diet in limited quantities. So overall, cut out those fruits, cut out those small bits of oats or granola or even rice or anything like that. Those things are keeping you out of ketosis, and they're going to ruin your experience of the diet and your results on the diet. So seriously, cut them out. If you think I'm crazy for saying cut out the fruits because they're natural, don't worry about it. The fruits are not a problem, and the sugar within those fruits is actually messing up your ketosis very badly. So fruits in and of themselves could be another mistake here to avoid, but I'm encompassing it with the glycemic load / quality of your carbs mistake. So the next one's going to be misunderstanding fat. And this one goes hand in hand with the first mistake, because oftentimes people think that it's just, have under 50 grams of carbs a day and then have more fat to increase your ketosis. However, the thing that's going to increase your ketosis the most is cutting out the carbs. Write this down. The number one thing, the only thing to put you into ketosis is the lack of carbohydrates. Write that down. The only thing required for ketosis is no carbs. That's it. That's why they call this a low carb diet. It just ends up being a higher fat diet as a byproduct of cutting out the carbs. You don't necessarily have to eat high fat, but it is going to deepen your state of ketosis and make you feel better. That does not necessarily mean higher fat loss, and more ketones don't necessarily equal more fat loss. It's just a better state that you'll be in, and over time your body will get better at being in ketosis anyways. So you don't need to pile on the MCT oil onto everything. You don't need to douse everything in olive oil. The most important thing is cutting out those carbs. You could eat all the fat you want in the world. If you're still eating carbs, you're not going to be in ketosis. All you need to do is just be in ketosis in and of itself, and it doesn't matter if you're in a larger amount of ketosis in your body. As long as you're actually ketogenic, you will get all the benefits of this diet, and you won't have to down back any more fats or oils than you want to. You'll be able to eat to satiation and have your appetite much more under control. The next one's going to be misunderstanding protein. So with misunderstanding protein, a lot of people tend to think that too much protein is going to ruin their diet. This is not true. Like I said, the only requirement is the lack of carbohydrates. Now, you do still need a certain amount of protein every day, but more protein does not mean that you are going to kick your body back into a sugar burning state. Your body is going to take the same amount of protein every single day and convert that into glucose for certain procedures in your body. So some of that's going to go to your brain, some of that might go to organ function, some of that might go to storing in your muscles for certain exercises. Whatever it is, your body's going to take the same amount of protein every single day, whether it comes from your food or not, and convert that into glucose through a process called gluconeogenesis. So some of you are afraid of this, but you don't have to be. Basically, you still want your protein to be relatively moderate. So somewhere between 20% and 45% of your calorie makeup, right? But at the end of the day, anywhere between that range, as long as your carbs are low and your fat is making up the rest of the diet, there is no problem, and you are going to be ketogenic. You just won't be in as deep of a state of ketosis. It's not going to change your metabolism to a carb burning metabolism, because think about how stupid that is, okay? Your body's an efficient machine and it doesn't do anything for stupid reasons. It's not going to automatically change the whole engine just because you had a little more protein. Protein isn't even that, your body's not even going to produce that much glucose from the protein. It's just a small amount every single day. And additionally, that's not going to come from your muscle, because when you have ketones in your blood, you are a lot less likely to burn your own protein as a source for glucose. So in that case, don't be afraid of the protein, especially if you're doing a keto bulk. At the end of the day, you don't need too many amounts of protein, too many grams of protein to build muscle, as you might think, but overall, protein's still essential. The next thing is calories. So this is often a problem for people with plateaus, because they can eat keto instinctively and just, follow their gut and their hunger instinct, but they aren't counting calories. So eventually they'll hit a plateau, and with that, eventually you are going to have to count calories on this diet. The benefit is you don't have to for the first few months, depending on how much fat you have to lose. However, counting calories will come in place, and overall it is very easy to overeat fatty foods. So example, if you're having a handful of almonds every day, that can add up, and your calories the difference between 10 extra almonds is a couple hundred calories. So keep these things under control, and this is where the element of calorie counting will come in. So if you're not snacking in general, you're just having a set meal or two throughout the day, you're probably not going to encounter the plateau of requiring calories to burn through until a lot later in the diet. However, eventually, if you're doing this for fitness and bodybuilding goals where you're pursuing a cut, I highly recommend that you count your calories from the get-go. However, the next tip, which is the fifth tip, is getting adapted. So in the beginning, too many people might focus on the calories too much. And you know what, I'll even throw this one in. This is kind of a caveat of the fourth tip. So in the beginning, people care about calories too much. And what that ends up looking like is, in the beginning, you have to get your body adapted first. So don't force a calorie goal on yourself. Eat as much keto food as you want, as long as you're assured that it's keto food. So don't be having too many, like a billion Quest bars. What I'm saying is keep all your carbs from greens and eat as much keto food until you are full. From there, after a week or so, then you can start counting calories again and basically allow your body to get adapted before you start putting these calorie restrictions on yourself. The next tip, which is now technically the fifth one, is cardio. So with cardio, you don't necessarily need to do high intensity interval training. High intensity interval training is great and it has its place and you can do it to your liking, but you don't need to force it. You'll actually get more fat burn if you do low intensity, steady state cardio. This is because the nature of fat as an energy source is that it's much more suited for 90% of the activities you do in the day, because it's a much slower burning energy source. So sprinting is not ideal for fat as an energy source. That's where your body's going to use stored glycogen, which it will be creating from your excess protein for sprinting and high intensity movements. However, most of your other movements, even intense running, is going to come from fat. So fat can do basically everything except for 1 rep maxes, basically, is what fat is going to be useful for on this diet. And when you're doing cardio for fat burning effects, and if you're doing it for fat loss, doing low intensity steady state cardio is not going to force your body to pull from glycogen stores. It's basically going to keep your body in a fat burning state because your heart rate isn't ridiculously high. And from there, you're going to be solely burning fat as an energy source while you're doing, Stairmaster or incline treadmill or something relatively low intensity. So for me, my preference is incline treadmill on like 3 speed. So very easy. Throw on a Netflix show, throw on a book, throw on a podcast. That's what I do every single time I do my cardio. I'm listening to books, and it's a very good tip and overall mistake to avoid the high intensity interval training if you think that's going to cause more of a fat loss effect. So right there we got 5, and the 6th one is going to be hidden carbohydrates. So this ties into hidden sweeteners as well. This is much more of a secondary tip, but at the end of the day, certain products, especially if it's a processed food, so like Quest bars, for example, which are good, and totally acceptable in moderate amounts on a keto diet, some products will have hidden carbohydrates. So these are things like maltodextrin. These are things like that's a sugar, by the way. Anything with dexter is going to probably be related to sugar, so dextrose. And anything that says any sort of sugar on there, or anything ending in ose, like fructose, dextrose, sucrose, anything like that, is going to be a sugar. So you want to avoid those things. There are also certain certain sweeteners which can raise your blood sugar. One of which is maltitol. A lot of people don't have blood sugar responses to sucralose, and I'm pretty sure almost nobody has a blood sugar response to stevia. So try to keep most of your processed snacks from sucralose and stevia, but preferably stevia, as it is more natural and better for your gut biome. Anyways, at the end of the day, if you pull out a product and look at this little fine print there, you can get a good look of what's in the actual product. And, even though the net carbs are going to be more important than, the specific source of 3 grams of carbs from a bar, at the end of the day, it is still important that you look at these things, because if you're not having them with a fatty meal, the blood sugar effect is going to be higher. So here's another little tip too. If you mix your carb sources for the day, which should be in limited amounts anyways, if you mix those with a fattier meal or a macro diverse meal, so a meal that has protein, fats in it, it's going to slow the digestion of all that and lower the blood sugar and insulin response. So that's another little tip, but hopefully this video is valuable to you. That's 6 of the most common and most strenuous keto mistakes to avoid. So hopefully you got some value from that video. Hit me up with some questions. I'll happily answer them. Find my Instagram, follow me and all that, and turn on that little notification bell. I'd love to help you out any way I can, so let me know. And overall, thank you for watching. Hope this video is valuable to you. Peace.